Right, so WWDC is really close, and so today I thought compile all the hardware announcements we could see at WWDC, ranging from the MacBook Pro, the Mac Mini, and a new Thunderbolt display. Right, so let's go from most likely to least likely, and that begins with the MacBook Pro. So this has been leaked into oblivion, but yes, we should see a new 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro. So what should we expect with this MacBook Pro? Well, that begins with a redesign because obviously the MacBook is following in the footsteps of the iPad Pro and the iPhone 12 with a flat-edged redesign. However, interestingly, in some leaked renders and schematics, we have seen a design that's slightly more rounded around the edges. We have no idea why, but yes, the top and bottom of the Mac should be completely flat, but the edges should remain slightly rounded. Oh, and by the way, with the redesign, we should see the removal of the MacBook Pro text on the actual laptop, much like the OG Retina MacBook Pros, and also we should see a full-size function row instead of the touch bar, which yes means there will be a smaller trackpad. Now as for Mini LED, we're still unsure as to what's happening with that because obviously for the longest time we were pretty sure about Mini LED debuting on these MacBooks, but then as of late we've been getting a ton of information about Mini LED production issues, and that does make sense because Mini LED iPad Pros have been significantly pushed back, and so clearly there is some sort of supply constraint, and so I can see Apple pushing back Mini LED for a future version of the MacBook Pro. Now as for the specs of these MacBook Pros, it's gonna be absolutely insane. So we should see the M1X SoC. This has a 10-core CPU with 8 power cores and 2 efficiency cores, and then a choice of a 16 or 32 core GPU. So yeah, that's gonna be a massive improvement over M1. Now as for the RAM, we should see up to 64 gigs, which is pretty insane. 64 gigs of unified memory with the efficiency of M1X. I can't even begin to fathom how buttery smooth that's gonna be, so yeah, I'm looking forward to having more RAM options with these new MacBooks. Now as for the ports, we should see MagSafe, 2 USB-C ports, and a headphone jack on the left side, and then on the right side we see HDMI, USB Type-C, and an SD card reader. So yes, we're getting a bunch of legacy ports back. I'm very glad about that, but we are losing one Thunderbolt port. So instead of the 4 we have on the current models, we have 3. Which, as a fan of USB Type-C, does kind of seem like a downgrade. Now interestingly, there are also rumors that we could see Ethernet built into the power brick, much like we see on the iMac with these new MacBook Pros, and yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me, so I do think that's happening. Now the speakers are also getting a massive improvement because they should be gaining Dolby Atmos and spatial audio support, which of course is going to work perfectly with the new spatial audio with Apple Music feature, and so yes, I definitely see that happening too. We could also get the better mics from the 24-inch iMac, but most importantly, we should be getting 1080p FaceTime cameras, which means that yes, we will no longer have to put up with the potato quality of the current webcam. As for battery life, we should see up to 30 hours with the 16-inch and 24 hours with the 14-inch, and well, I'm still unsure whether battery life will be this good, because since M1X has double the power cores of M1, whilst also having half the efficiency cores, how exactly does that equate to better battery life, especially on the 14-inch, which I'm assuming will have a pretty similar footprint to the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and so yeah, I very much doubt battery life will be this good. Anyways, we finally come down to price and availability, and this should be pretty straightforward, so we should see prices that are exactly the same as the current models, so expect $1,800 for the 14-inch and $2,400 for the 16-inch, and also availability wise it should be very similar to the iPad Pro and the iMac, so while they will be announced at WWDC, they won't be available to buy till mid-July. Let's now delve into the next release at WWDC that we could see, and that is the M1X Mac Mini. So to my surprise, this M1X Mac Mini is also getting a redesign. It should be very similar to the first generation Apple TV with an aluminium body but a plexiglass top. And yes, you might be wondering, why do we have plexiglass on the Mac Mini? Well, that could be for better Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. since the current Mac Mini design has been notorious for pretty bad Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and so yeah, maybe the Plexiglass could fix that. Or maybe, like John Prosser has suggested, we could see two-tone colors on the Mac Mini, which I know some of you guys would absolutely love to see. Now in terms of I/O, it should be very similar to the current Mac Mini, so expect 4 USB Type-C ports, 2 USB-A, Ethernet, and HDMI. Oh, and also the power connector from the iMac, that's coming to the Mac Mini too. As for the specs, it's pretty much on par with the MacBooks, so the M1X SoC with a 10-core CPU and either a 16 or 32-core GPU with up to 64 gigs of RAM. And finally, let's touch on the new Thunderbolt display that could launch at WWDC. Now, I will be honest, this is a little less likely to release than the M1X Macs, but there have been murmurs about a new Thunderbolt display launching very soon, and so I thought I'd delve into it. So basically right now we know it should be very similar to the Pro Display XDR in terms of design, but it could be slightly smaller at around 28 to 30 inches. No mini LED however, because obviously Apple's probably going to make this around $1,000, and I highly doubt they could give us a 30-inch mini LED panel on a consumer level display, and so instead we'll get the Retina display we see on the new iMac. And I'm also assuming the mic, the speaker, the ports, and the FaceTime camera should be from the 24-inch iMac too. But yeah, that's pretty much all the hardware I expect to see at WWDC, but let me know in the comments below, which release are you looking forward to? Anyways, thank you for watching, make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumors. Check out the video in the icon above about the iPhone 13, and on that note I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya peeps!